Hey everybody, Denise with LazyKHomestead. Well, I've got a bunch of tomatoes that I picked and I let them ripen on the table for a few days, so I thought I would go ahead and bring you along while I can some crushed tomatoes today. So, hope you'll enjoy. First thing I've got is all these tomatoes. See if you can see them all here. And I've got them soaking in water because I'm washing them off. And that's an important step because tomatoes uh, have a pretty tough skin and they can have a lot of dirt and grime and bugs crawled on them and whatever. So you want to soak them. We're going to take the skins off, and by that, the way we're going to do that is we're going to blanch them. And blanching is where you put them in boiling water just to where the skins start to pop or crack, and then you bring them out and you put them in cold water and you shock them. It stops the cooking process, and that way we can peel that skin off really easy, core them, and we'll put them back in a pot. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got my pot over here. I'm going to turn it on boil. It's just plain water, no salt, nothing else. And as soon as that starts to boil, we're going to go ahead and we'll pop these clean tomatoes in there. I'll show you what to do next. Okay, well, I washed the tomatoes I'm going to do right now, and this is the bottom of the sink, and I just wanted you to see all the sand that came off of those tomatoes. And that's why it's really important that you wash them to get off as much dirt and debris as you possibly can, because even when it rains, the ground will splash up on your tomato and it'll be a little bit dirty, but that's up to you, but that's just the steps that we like to take. So also wanted to tell you, while the water's getting ready to boil, I did find a tomato here. Let's see if I can get that. Now it's pretty soft right there, so that part is going bad. Yeah, there you can see. You see there's kind of a darker, and that is the harder part of the tomato. So that's still good. So what I do, because I don't like to waste anything. So what I do, I'm going to go ahead and put you over the sink with me here, is I go ahead and I cut that part off even before I blanch it, just to check that tomato. And then I smell all my tomatoes. And I'm not going to use this one because I just feel like it's probably not good enough to be canned. I'm not even going to eat it, even though it just has that little, you can see where I'm pushing that in, kind of a blemish. It's probably a bruise, but I'm not really happy with the way it smells, because once tomatoes are bruised and they sit for a while, they do start to deteriorate. So that's just one tip from me and Willis, how we go through our tomatoes. And everything that we can and freeze and put away, we are very particular, because you have to be, because this is home canning. And you need to make sure that everything that you are going to put away has the best opportunity to succeed. And by that, I mean fresh, good, not soft. You don't want anything soft to use in your canning. So let's see how this pot is doing over here, because you know how it is. A watch pot never boils. Okay, well, we're getting there. I'm going to put this lid on here to kind of make it go faster. So we'll be right back. Okay, you can see my water's finally boiling. I'll take the lid off. Now be careful, because that is hot steam. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this down from high to medium high, because you want to be able to work with that. And also, you're going to be putting these fresh tomatoes in there, and you don't want to drop them because it'll splash and it can burn your skin. Now, what we like to do, and we grow a lot of different kind of tomatoes, and we grow mostly heirlooms, because we like the different flavors that it gives our juice and our crushed tomatoes we're making today. So this is a boxcar Willie. This is a very old-fashioned canning tomato, and it's got that definite signature on the bottom. You see that one does too. Now it's not bad. That's just how this heirloom grows. And if you guys do grow heirlooms, be forewarned that they're not going to be the prettiest tomato in the bunch. They'll probably be the most colorful and the tastiest, but they're not the prettiest. Look at this one. See, that is just the way it grows. There you go. That is a pink brandywine. And let me see what else we've got here. We've got a Cherokee purple, and it does have green shoulders. That's what that's called. Green shoulders and a purple bottom. And it also has like that little, all heirlooms really do have this kind of scarring there, and that's from the blossom end. It's not rotten or anything. If it was, it would be soft. That's just how that is. Let's see what else have we got here. Oh, this is a pink Belgian. You see how pink that is? I don't know if you'll be able to see that with mine. That's very pink. And the way that it is kind of blotched with that green, that is the way that this heirloom grows. And that is done. It's going to have little light green specks on its shoulders. And let's see here. Thought I might have, oh, now this is a tiny one. But see that? This is a hillbilly. Also, when you cut it, it'll look like a Mr. Stripey, if you're familiar with that, or a rainbow. So when you cut it open, it's going to have the burst of color, and it's really pretty. They do get bigger than that. So anyways, let's get back to canning. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just put these in here. I'm just putting them in whole. And I just kind of drop them in there. I don't drop them in from high up because, like I said, it will splash and burn your body parts. Your arms, your chest, your face, your legs, whatever. So you just put these in here till the water level comes up to here where it's, level with the pan, because you don't want to splash over. And I put some pretty big ones in there. Now I'm putting some smaller ones in. These little ones here are Marglobes. They're an old-fashioned canning tomato. Was my dad's favorite. And it's just about perfect. Now it has just a little tiny spot there from the blossom. So that'll be the last one. Now we're going to go ahead and it's going to come back to a boil, but more like a simmer, not a real boil. Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about. The water's moving. That's really about all I want it to move. And if you can see already, this big one here, the skin is already starting to split. Now, blanching tomatoes, you're supposed to keep them in about a minute, and that will ensure that the skins do blanch. You don't want to keep them in super long because then they'll be harder to work with because they get mushier. So I'll back my tripod up, and what I have prepared here in my sink is water, cold water. You can put ice in it if you want to, but once the skin cracks and it's blanched, we're going to pop them in here and shock them and stop the cooking. And the water will be warm. Don't be worried about that because once we start doing everything we have to do to the tomato, we're going to put it back in a pot and we're going to cook it again for about 20 minutes. So we'll wait on the tomatoes over here. Let me just check them. It's been about a minute. Let me get the camera over here so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, let me show you this. Okay, here's the pink Belgian. I'm going to bring this up to the camera so you can see. Yes, it'll drip, but it doesn't matter. You see how that tomato skin has peeled back? It's probably better on this side here. Like that. That's what you want. And I'm going to go ahead and just pop these back in this water here. There you go. I'm just going to go ahead and put them all in there. Making sure that they have all popped. That one I just put back in there. The skin hadn't cracked yet. You do want the skin to crack because it is easier to peel. Some take longer than others. There we go. So we're just going to do this. And then we will load our woolen water back up. I'm going to let those go. Oh, here's one. Yeah, it doesn't take long. You can actually just take your eyes off of it, and all of a sudden the skin has cracked. I'm going to let those go ahead and stay in there a little bit longer. I turn it up just a tad. All right, so what we do next is you can see how the skin is coming away from that tomato. That's great because that makes it a lot easier to take the skin off. And you just go ahead and take that skin off with your hands or your knife. Let me get this bowl here. I should have been more prepared. Okay, and I'm just going to put the skins in there. And I'm going to grab one of my pots over here. And I'm just going to put the tomato in there after it's cored and skinned. Some of them will be whole, some of them won't be. Okay, now this big guy, you can actually just cut him in half because he's so big you want to be able to handle him. And we're just going to go ahead and peel the skin right off of there. You can go ahead and get that core right out of there. Now, if you leave your tomatoes in your water too long, it'll be harder to get that core out of there because it'll be a little bit slippery. Okay. Now, if you want to cut your tomatoes up in your pot, that's clearly up to you. I don't do that because in the cooking process, they don't melt down, but they kind of fall apart. Okay. And you want to make sure that all your peels are off because the peel is not very tasty and it's not very appetizing for a canned tomato. Let me go ahead and check these tomatoes over here and see if they've popped yet. Cracked. Nope, they're still taking a while. So we will continue on with this. And we're just going to core and peel. Now, if you have a tomato that is kind of small like this one, you can just go ahead and pull that whole skin off like so. And it will come right off that tomato. The only part that might hold on is up there on the shoulders. For some reason, the skins like to hold on to the shoulders of its tomato. There you go. We're going to core it. This is one of those nice pink ones. They're one of my favorite. They're Belgian pinks. I sold them this year in the greenhouse, and they really sold well. I haven't heard from anybody how everything grew. Well, maybe Kathy told me that they did okay, and I think Kelly said the tomato plants were doing good, but I had quite a few new customers this year. I was hoping I would hear some feedback, good or bad, because you can always improve, you know. All right, these little ones are a little bit harder, but you take the good and the big and the small. They all have a great flavor. And these are those marglopes. Okay, that is good so far, and there is what I've got in my pot. And I'm going to fill my pot up with tomatoes, and then we will cook them. Let me see what we've got over here. Surely they have cracked by now. Yep. You have to have patience in canning or freezing because it does take time. You're dealing with fruit and vegetables, and you're also dealing with hot water. And this is something you don't want to rush. I'm going to go ahead and put some more tomatoes in here. Same water. Just blanching, and like I said, just dropping them in easily so they don't pop up on you. I think I had put my biggest ones in first, so I'll probably be able to have a few more in this pot. So that'll be good. These Cherokee purples are my favorite. I just love them. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let those blanch and go ahead and continue on with this. Now, if you get a tomato that really looks crazy and you're unsure, this one, see, it's got that little blossom where the blossom was, and it's pretty hot still. You just kind of cut around that. Don't waste that tomato because you think there's something wrong with it, because there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, you've looked at your tomatoes, you've washed them, and you've prepared them, and you checked and made sure that everything is good before you get to this step. Now, of course, if you do get to a tomato that you may have overlooked, smell it. Smell it. If it smells like a cooked tomato, you're good to go. Now I wanted to show you this. I think I can do this. This one I already cored, and look, I'm just going like that. That whole skin came off. That's a good tomato. That's one that wants to be canned for sure. So I'm just coring them. Now I usually put my cores and stuff in a separate bowl because, I mean, you can just put them back in your water, but the water gets awfully grody. So, yes, and that is an 80s word that I still use. That's showing my age. All right. And when you're in here with your tomatoes and you can still look around, you want to make sure that the skins are off, because I just noticed that one was not off. And you just want to pull it. And if you get to the point where you're canning the tomatoes and you see a skin, just pop it out and put it in the trash. It's fine. I mean, sometimes you can't help it if you accidentally have a skin in there. It does go through a lot of cooking processes. I pressure can my tomatoes. I know a lot of people water bath. That's your choice. I just have had better luck with pressure canning for them to seal longer. And I pressure can them at 10 pounds for 20 minutes for quarts. Willis and I both feel like that's a really good way to do it. His mom did it that way, and I believe my mom did too. So, just to err on the side of caution. Now, the Ball Blue Book does say you can do it either way. You can do a water bath, or you can do a pressure can, and that's our choice. Okay. As soon as I get this pot filled, I'll be back. Okay, I finally got all the tomatoes blanched, peeled, and cored. And I've got 2 big pots full, if you can see that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these on medium-high so they don't scorch, because tomatoes do have sugar in them, so they can scorch, and you don't want that. And I'm going to go ahead and cook these as soon as they come to a boil. And then I'll put them down to a simmer, so probably on medium heat. for about 20 minutes, and then I will go ahead and start canning them. So I hope you're enjoying this step-by-step crushed tomatoes the Lazy K way. And this is what I mean about it boiling, but still I'm going to turn it down so it'll simmer for 20 minutes, and then we'll can it. Good morning, guys. Well, I'm going to finish up the canned tomatoes this morning. I got late last night after I got everything done, and so I thought I'd go ahead and do it this morning. So I just wanted to go over your canner first of all. And like I said, I'm going to be using a pressure canner. This is mirror. And you've got your lid, you've got your ring. You need to inspect everything. Make sure your ring is securely inside of the little grooves. Everything is good, and there's nothing stopping up your little steam hole. And what we have to do for this kind of canner is we have to fill it up to about 2 inches of water. And the way I do that is I go ahead and use the water I have in my jars. And I've got my jars in the sink. And I just go ahead and pour it in there. Now, everything is room temperature. And that's the way I'm going to go ahead and can today. You want to make sure that your jars, your canner water, your canner, and your tomatoes or whatever you're canning is all the same temperature, because that way it'll all acclimate at the same time when you turn this on, and you won't have any chances of breaking a jar. So I'm going to go ahead and start the way I do this. Now, I know I don't have 2 inches in there yet, but I will. Okay, here are my tomatoes. This morning, I took them out of the fridge and I did warm them back up, but they are lukewarm right now. Okay, what you're going to need is you're going to need your jars, clean, sterilized jars, your canning funnel. You're going to need salt. And I use table salt. I know a lot of people use canning salt, but I've done that my whole life. And you're going to need a 1 teaspoon measure and a ladle. And I'll put my tripod down and you can see where we're going to go with this. Okay. So what you do, you've got your ladle in your jar. And we are just going to go ahead and put our wonderful tomato that you did yesterday into our jars. Now you might be wondering, well, how many jars am I going to need? Well, this canner holds 7 quarts, so I always go ahead and just have 7 jars ready. That way I don't have to rush around and hurry up and sterilize or clean my jars in the middle of my canning. And while you're putting your tomatoes into your jars, it's a good time to inspect your tomatoes again. Make sure that you don't have any skins that might have secretly jumped in while you were processing your tomatoes. So it looks like this is probably going to do 3 quarts. I know the other pot that I've got tomatoes in holds a little bit more. So I'm hoping I'll get the 7 quarts. Now, as you can see, I am filling this up to right here. And that is the bottom of where your ring will go on. And that's about 1 inch. And you want 1 inch headspace. So that's what we've got right there. So not to confuse anybody, but if you do go online or read in your Ball Blue book about canning tomatoes, they do also say that you can water bath can. So this is a water bath canner. And now if you are going to use this, you need to put your jars in there and fill it all the way up to at least have 1 to 2 inches of water above each one of your jars, and this one holds 7. So it's a little bit different. I don't know right offhand how many minutes you have to water bath can, but I'll put that in my description box. So in case you do want to use that. But like I said, Willis and I, we really like using the pressure canner for this. It just seems to me that we don't lose any of our tomatoes. We have had batches before where they didn't seal properly using water bath canner. That's the only reason. And my mom did it this way, and so did Willis's mom. So it's kind of like what you know. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I know you guys, if you've watched my videos before, I use that old saying a lot because I really believe in it. Not that I'm against progress by any means. But if it works for you, then it's no reason to not just keep doing it, in my opinion. Well, guys, I think I'm going to get a lot more than 7 here. So what I will probably do is have another canner full. Now, you can keep your tomatoes up. And here is, look, I found a skin. Pesky little skin. That's why I said, you know, make sure you use your eyeballs. And watch as your tomatoes are going in there. It happens. Even for the most seasoned canner. And I'm 64, and I've been canning since I was 12. So, well, I may just have one extra jar. This will probably give me one more quart. So what I'll probably do is just go ahead and freeze what I've got left, so that way I don't have to just can one jar. So we'll go ahead and put that aside using a freezer bag, and we can do that later. Okay, so I've got my 7 jars filled. I've got my water in my canner. And what you do next is you take your salt and you put 1 teaspoon of salt into each one of these jars. Let me go and put that tripod down so you can see. Sorry, I have to keep moving it. Okay. So you just put 1 level teaspoon in each one of the jars. And that's a way of preserving. Now, I have forgotten before, and it didn't seem to bother as long as I pressure canned. But when I water bathed and I forgot that, it did make a difference. Okay, so I've got all my jars filled, and I have my lids and my rings here in a pan. And I go ahead and I warm them up. You can bring them to a boil. That's how I was taught many years ago. And what that does is ensure that that little rubber seal, let's see if I can get one out here, in case you've never canned before, that little rubber seal will adhere super well to the rim here of your jar. Now, before you do that, what you're going to do is you're going to take a clean cloth, and this is clean, and you're going to wipe around the entire rim where the ring goes and the lid. And what you're doing there is kind of twofold. You are making sure that there's no tomato juice or tomato pieces on there, and you're also re-inspecting the jar itself to make sure that there are no chips or cracks. And you should have done that anyways, but I always take this as a second time to do that, because it is an important step, because you don't want to go through all this work and find that you had a chip in there or something on your jar and it didn't seal, because it is heartbreaking. Okay, now this little jewel, we didn't have these back in the 70s when I was a kid. This thing is great, because you can just take this magnet. It comes in a canning kit, by the way, and you can just grab your lids, especially if they're warm like mine are. and you can just use it to pop right on there. Well, there's two together, so. And I just go ahead and lay these right on top of each one of my jars. I just love this little thing. At first, I really wasn't sure how to use it because I always used like a fork, you know, to get my lids out of the water. And then when I learned how to use it, I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So every one of my jars now has a lid. And then if you use it to get your rings out, because they are hot if you do it my way. And I just pop them on each one of these jars. And I'll pour the rest of that water right in here, just to top off my couple inches. Okay, now what you're going to do now is you are going to go and you're going to hand tighten each one of these rings. Just hand tighten, not Superman tighten, but just hand tighten. And the reason it's hand tightening is because when it's in the canner, or the water bath canner, whichever one you prefer, these lids contract and loosen and contract, and that is the process of canning this way. And then in the end, they will completely seal after you're finished your processing, and you'll hear a little ping, and you'll know that they have sealed. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to go ahead and put these jars right in your canner. You'll do this whether you're doing water bath or the pressure canner like me. But the one difference is I've already got my water in here. And the difference with water bath canning is you'll probably have water in there, but you're going to want to have that level above your jars, at least 1 to 2 inches. Okay, so the next step for me is I'm going to go ahead and put my ring on there. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to wet this. I just feel like it's better. It's a better seal. And again, it's the way I was taught years and years ago. And if you guys have watched my videos, you know me and my stepmom, we learned how to can together. And we have some of the greatest memories. I'm trying to get this tripod so you can see what I'm doing, actually. Okay. Okay. So you're just going to go ahead and put that on there. You've got your lid on, and you want to make sure that you pop that over there so your arms are together. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this on high. And what I'm going to look for is the steam to rise out of this little port. And then when it starts coming out constantly, you're going to time that for 10 minutes. These will be pressure canned at 10 pounds pressure. And once that pressure is up, we'll put our little 10-pound pressure gauge on here. We'll just pop it right in there with the steam coming out, and then we will go to the next step. Now, if you have a different kind of canner and you have a gauge, you need to read your instructions and know how to do that. I prefer this kind because it's very simple for me, and we've been using this canner for the better part of 11 years, and we love it. And it's a good canner for someone who's starting out and maybe afraid of a gauge. I mean, that's my opinion, but I just think this is a great canner. It's an MIRRO canner. So we'll be back. Okay, guys, here we are, and the steam is coming out. Let me see. I can hold my hand right there, and you can see that steam. And that's what you want, is a constant steam for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and time that, and I'll be back. Okay, we have timed this now for 10 minutes of it steaming. And I'm going to go ahead and put this on. You'll see it has a little hole and it just goes right on there. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it on my steaming. Now I use a hot holder and it goes right on. And I usually just go ahead and turn this down to medium high. And you'll start hearing it rock. And as it rocks, you're gonna time it for 20 minutes for these tomatoes. So we'll be back. Okay, now this is the rocking. You hear it? And that is when you start your timing. So I'm going to go ahead and time this for 20 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, our tomatoes are finished. They completely cooled. I took the lid off and I'm going to go ahead and take them out of the canner. And you want to use your canning tongs. They're a handy tool. And you just go ahead and you just take them on out and you put them on your tea towels over here. Put this chocolate down. There you go. And you just leave a little space in between them while they cool. Now they need to cool for about 12 hours. Don't tighten your rings. If they seem like they're a little loose, you don't want to tighten them because they're fine. And that is it for canning tomatoes, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions you have about canning tomatoes, let me know in the comments. You have a great day. Bye.